Welcome back. You're watching our special coverage of Prime Minister Modi's visit to the United States. He is at the White House currently. He received a ceremonial welcome becoming of a state visit. You had military bands which were playing on the south lawns of the White House. Both leaders are currently in a bilateral meeting. Let me now go across to Ajit Manocha of the Semiconductor Industry Association. Mr. Manocha, thank you very much for joining us. You've heard President Biden and Prime Minister Modi speak a short while back. We saw pictures of them, a lot of bonhomie, positive chemistry on the White House lawns. But let me begin by asking you about the first big deliverable, the semiconductor investments and the semiconductor deals. This will be a big focus when the two leaders meet. First of all, how do you see this investment by Micron Technology of $875 million into a testing and packaging facility in Gujarat?
I think this is very remarkable. I mean, this is the first time a big company like Micron, who is really the well-established, the leader in memory technology, and a really icon of this industry and the world, setting up a assembly and test facility in India. I think that will also inspire other companies to follow the suit. So I think this is a big deal.
Right. What do you think has been the reluctance on the part of some US companies to invest? And how do you think things have really been ironed out for Micron?
Well, this is the first time, in my view, that geopolitics, domestic politics, and private sector capacity are aligned in India's favor. This has taken years to see these kind of alignments of these three components that I talked about. So I think also we learned a lot of lessons from the recent chip shortages, the pandemic, and how semiconductor industry has become vital and critical for our human lives across the globe. And no wonder that many countries have declared semiconductor industry as very strategic for their national security, and economic prosperity. So given that and the geopolitical tensions and all kind of implications we experience, and on top of that, our industry is growing unprecedented growth of going from $500 billion or $600 billion $600 billion to $1 trillion in next 6-7 years. And there's so much need for growth. And I think the country like India is definitely the right, has the right ingredients of making this happen. Because the growth has to happen in many different parts of the world. We can't afford to have growth only in one or two regions. Because these kind of supply chain disruptions have taught us lessons. We need multiple hubs. So I'm very, very excited about this announcement today. And I think more to come.
Right. Mr. Manocha, I would also like to ask you, what is the current level of interest among US companies like Intel, also some of the global chip makers like Global Foundries? We have been in conversation with many of them. Also, India's larger aim is to have a semiconductor fabrication unit. Why do you think Micron has gone in for a packaging and testing facility and not for a fabrication unit?
That's a very good question, Mr. Luthra. I think I've been involved in this discussion with Indian government for maybe 3 decades now. And I have done wafer fabrication all my life. And one thing that I learned, I did 2 greenfield countries wafer fab, one in Madrid, Spain, and one in Malta, New York, a small town outside Albany, New York. And if you don't have the ecosystem, it becomes very difficult to set up a wafer fab. And for the first time, and I'm very proud of the policy that India has announced, is to really focus on ecosystem. For wafer fab, you need a very robust ecosystem. And I think the policy that India has announced actually gives that kind of a comfort to the companies that, okay, if ecosystem is coming, then we can see the reason for putting our wafer fabs there. So I think this will happen. I think this is the right direction. And as we get some successes on setting up ecosystem, yes, we have a strong design presence in India. There are a lot of design houses in India, and they're doing extremely well. but we have many more things to do. And the policy announced definitely supports that. And I will say that India is very lucky to have two very relevant ministers, Minister Ashwini Vaishnav and Rajiv Chandrasekhar. Both have great understanding of semiconductor industry, semiconductor technologies, and they are really focused exactly in the right things. And that will actually entertain wafer fabs coming into India from big companies that you mentioned.
Mr. Manocha, I'd also like to ask you, let's look at the contours of this deal. And now it's in black and white. Micron has sent out a press release. They're saying Micron will make an investment of up to $825 million in 2 phases. 50% of the fiscal support for the total project cost will come from the central government. Incentives representing 20% of the total project cost is coming from the state government of Gujarat. So a lot of money is coming from the center and the state, and together the investments will add up to $2.75 billion. Do you think the current outlay of the Semicon program, if we have ambitions of setting up wafer fabrication units in India, do you feel that we will have to roll out additional incentive packages, and the current outlay of Semicon, which is about 76,000 to 79,000 crores, is not enough?
I think there a lot more will happen, or has to happen. If you look at what US has done, the Chips and Science Act has $52 billion. The Europe, the EU Chips Act has about 43 billion euros. And other countries are following the trends. India is a starting point, $10 billion, and I'm sure this is not the first and the last one. There are many more to come. And I'm very confident that India is committed to really grow the semiconductor industry, and they will have to put a lot more in the coming years.
Right. And very briefly, sir, how do you think this visit will pave the way for India-US ties in critical and emerging technology? Will this usher in a new era of cooperation between industries of the two countries?
Absolutely. I think if you really go back to the history and the recent history, where there have been several visits of the US executive branch and the important cabinet ministers like Ms. Gina Raimondo and Tony Blinken to India, and they've been discussing a lot of things, how to really make India a second powerhouse on semiconductors. Now, of course, the details have not been shared, but one can imagine what it means. It means massive partnership, which will help India to secure the technological strengths in partnership. The good thing about the recognition of India is the population, 1.4 billion. That really means a very big market for the semiconductor industry. And also the democratic principles of India are fully aligned with the US democratic principles, as you heard in the speeches of both leaders. And there's a lot more commonality, right. Respect for intellectual property matters and respect for national security and cybersecurity. All these things, really, like I said, for the first time, I see the geopolitics, domestic politics, and private sectors are totally aligned in many aspects. So I think this is the right thing, and the right signals are there.
Right. And I'd again go back to the statement by President Biden that this could be the defining partnership of the 21st century. With that, we wrap this conversation with Mr. Ajit Manocha of SEMI. With that, it's a wrap of our special broadcast here. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.